So let's begin then with Omnom Tachlis HaKavana, page 233. Omnom Tachlis HaKavana, so the ultimate intent is Shelo Yisharu Shnei Sugi Nisim. It shouldn't be these two categories of Nisim we described before, Nisim that are higher than Teva, Nisim that are in Teva. And in that itself, he qualified in Teva. It can be like the Nes of Purim. And then there's the Nes that in Bala Nes Makir Ben Nisai, completely concealed in nature. The kavanah is that there should not be these two realms, these two reshuyos, as it were. Nisim Moshe Rabbi. That it should remain plural. Nifrodim zeh mizeh separate. Hamek she'ela b'fnei atzma. The level of nest that comes from the highest height, the depth, or the height, rather, that shouldn't be this way. Hello, in such a way that even in the depth, should be drawn the highest height. Again, these are the two choices of Nisim that Yeshaya offered to King Achaz, Melech Achaz. A bit of Kabbalah here, and we'll just say the words and get a general idea, because it's a whole arichus in the Mitler Rebbe's Shara Yichud. So we'll just get the general idea. Especially in light of that which the Ramez, Moishe Zakuta wrote a Pirush on the Zohar. The Pirush Hemek She'ela, and explaining the Diak HaLoshen, the depth of the depth. Shaloshen hamek, loshen hamek depth, miloshen amika debira. So loshen in Zohar, amika debira means the depth of the pit, and the Zohar says there that goes on the madrega of Eden, from where the river flows, the Nor Yotzim Eden, and then the river spreads into four heads. It's a four elamas. At any rate, the point being, the Pnimis Ebelikos, the Haino, and it's from there that it manifests. That what manifests? All to the Madregas, all the way down to the four Elamas, all the way down to Elamaz Agashmi. Haino Shakoyach Lagid is B'Sfiris HaMalchos. So the Koyach, how does Malchos descend? Hemek She'ela Kipshuti, the simple meaning of it's the depth. He's saying there's two types in here. The simple meaning is very low. But the Ramez is saying that it's rooted in very high. The depth of the height. So Mibchinas HaChochma, the Etzem level, Etzem HaChochma you learned in my modern ago. So the source that allows for Malchus to descend so low is Dafke. From Chochma Amika the Biro, that's the depth of the boyer. It's known that there is an intrinsic connection between Chochma, the first level, and Brata, the daughter, which is Malchus. All to say that it's not the pshat that there are these two worlds. There's Hagbe Lamaila and Hemek She'ela, Alma Discassia and Alma Disgalia. But the emes is that Alma Disgalia, the lowest emerged worlds, are rooted in the Pnimius of the highest worlds. The Dafka Abba Yosab Brata. Again, the perennial principle that Nos Chelasa B'Seifan, that Adarabba, the lowest levels, are rooted in the highest levels above. Can you do with the simple mashalim for this, that a wall, when it falls, so the brick that is the highest falls deepest, or a mashal of a source of light. The stronger the source of light, the further the reach of the light, or a mashal of the overflowing a barrel of water. Dafka, the water that comes down is because Dafka, the water that's above the barrel itself. The highest water Dafka that flows down. The water that's not so high remains contained. But the one that spills over the barrel is because it's higher than the water in the keli, as it were. So all of these mashalim and many other mashalim all bring out this essential paradox, that the lower something is, the emes is, that it's rooted in a deeper place. And the root of all of that is Dida B'tachtoinim, that Hashem's deepest desire is Dafka B'tachtoinim. So where's the Rasim Pnimi to be found? Not in the Eilam Eseliyanim. They're all a means for an end. The Pnimi Esarotzim, the Maimer is telling us, is Dafka in the Tach. So this manifests endlessly in all of the dynamics of Ishtal Shabbos. The Keilis were the deeper than the Oir, etc. So Abba Yosef Brata. So the Hamek She'ela is really merames on two things: the depth, the lowest, and its source, the depth, the highest. And I'm not sure exactly the pshat here, and I would have to learn all these makoros, and frankly, I did not. Which is my chsaron, and you pay for it. But the general idea, I'll tell you. So tzedek is Moishe she'inyan she'ela. Now the word she'ela, I think what he's referring to also means to borrow. Right? So what is the meaning of borrowing here? Lending, granting. Yeshleim al derech, ima, mother, referring to Bina, Wazifas, lends, mana, her garment, the brata to a daughter. So it's obviously what the symbolism and the Zohar means here. It's a lashon. It's obviously a lashon Zohar that Chachma lends garments to Malchus. Or to say that Bina, that Bina is rooted, that Malchus is rooted in the highest madregas. We said Chachma and now Bina. K'mavur ha'inyan b'makamache Baruch is explained elsewhere. The inyan basically is that the inyan of machshava, which is the first of the garments and certainly the lower garments of Dibur Maisa, even though machshava, of course, and Dibur Maisa are very finite, you take a concept and you put it into machshava, so it becomes there analyzed and given finite expression. The seichel, the pure seichel, which is in Chachma, is higher than Oisius. Pure, intuitive insight, and then eventually comes into machshava dibra maisa. So the root of that is bina, because bina, what's the meaning of bina? Bina is analysis. So bina is the shaydish of the detailed and differentiated final expression of machshava dibra maisa. That's what it means here. The hekvuras of bina is explained. Bina is the union of gvura, the union again of containing the seichel and defining it. So Bina lends the garments to Malchus. We need to say that Malchus, which is all about differentiation and finite and specific expressions. First, Machshava, there's three levushim in Malchus. Machshava, Diburam, Ikir is Dibur. It's the central one. Machshava, Diburam, Maisa. Where does it get this union of Gvul, the articulation in a very articulated and finite way? Letters, words, Maisa. It's all rooted in Bina, because that's what Bina is. Bina is the analysis. There it's in the world of Seichel, not Machshava. But Bina produces Machshava, as we simply say. Bina, we often confuse the two, but you're thinking about the idea. But really, they're not the same. Bina is nislabish in the Oisius. But Bina is really a pure Seichel dike property of defining and developing the concept. It's really, Machshava is the tool in which it's expressed. But it's really not the same. Varaya, when you think in language. Machshava, there's three levels to Machshava, but basically Machshava is you're thinking in language. The Koyach HaBina is not, could be in any language. So Dafka these Oisias.
The Koyach HaBina, yeah.
Koyach HaBina.
The actual practice.
You don't have the language and it's going to remain unrealized. The actual pale, you need machshava. So it's the garment. It's the keli for bina. But now we're saying more than the keli for bina. We're saying that bina produces the machshav. The inyan of machshav, to be able to express it in defined letters and words and language, this itself is rooted in bina, because bina is already the koyach hagvul. So the koyach hagvul, as it manifests further, it manifests in hardcore language and words, etc. What's he saying here? He's saying here just to point out that the malchus, which is David's words, and invested in finite and fragmented creation, is really rooted where? In bina. So first he said chachma and bina. There's two stages. Abba yosad brata. Abba founds malchus, and mother grants malchus its garments. Why is Abba yosad brata? Again, because the whole kavan of why is there an Abba, why is there a chachma, the whole kavan of the whole ishtalshalis and everything is the end of the day is malchus and the dira b'tachtonim. So it's rooted there. All to say now, so what are we trying to do here? The Rebbe is saying that the kavan is not two worlds, the kavan is one world. The lowest world is really rooted in the upper world in a deeper way than the upper world consciously is manifest. It's rooted in the pnimius. Yeah? Yes? Continuing, the emes is, it's not the pshat he's saying. We have to merge two opposite worlds, teva and nes. We have to somehow bridge the gap between alma diskasya and alma disgalia by drawing on a third level and kind of overriding the limitations, inherent limitations in these two diverse worlds, chesed, gevura, and so on. Not so. The emes is that in the lower world, the pnimi is already there. It's shayrish, but emes is the pnimius of the higher world. So we don't have to make this big revolution, really. On the surface, it is a big revolution. But the emes is with the pnimius of being megala, the pnimius of health itself. The pnimius of teva is be'emes, pure likus, nes. So the task is not all that, what I'm looking for. When something is, you approach something and it's, not just unattainable, it's not, the task is not all that daunting. That's what I'm looking for. Because what we really need to do is megala the pnimis that always is here. It's basi legani achesi kala. The be'emes, Elam Haze is the emes gani to the Eibush. Just waiting to be developed. The emes is that the Nisim, the Meliubavitch teva, yesh gam minyan shalamalim teva. It's all along be'emes. It's all hide in teva. It's not like this is the way it is. You know, there's this, the given of these rules of teva. You probe a little bit deeper, it's all the malim b'teva. I've mentioned this before, and again, I don't want to play pseudo physicist, but quantum physics, as I'm hearing from Dr. Brower, heard a lecture once and became an expert. And I read a little bit, not much. But Akaponin and the Kud is that now on the Erev Mashiach's coming, so quantum physics has discovered that the subatomic level, or even deeper than that, it's chaos, and there is no structure. The world is not this orderly clock that we thought it was, and it is constant, inexplicable, could they call it a force, whatever language they have, that translates chaos into order on the manifested molecular level. Pashit, pure Chassidus, and for that matter, Chumash. In the beginning, all was Toya Vavoy, and then God made order. Explains Kabbalah, that's not once upon a time, that's the constant reality. And now science is actually seeing it in nature and discovering, you know, it wasn't so long ago where it was believed that nothing could travel faster than the speed of light. Now they're seeing that it is. There's this communication between particles, instantaneous. And that's responsible, and that's the core of Teva. Not some other gila coming from some other place. You probe Teva, and all of a sudden you reveal that the whole thing is Bambis, pure energy, pure likus, beyond time and space, and beyond order and structure, and for somehow, inexplicably, on a manifested level, There's the molecular structure, gases, solid, liquids, and things behave in predictable patterns. But why should they? And as he put it, if I recall, Dr. Brown was saying, if you ask a scientist, in truth, you're holding an object in your hand. What happens if I let go? What's going to happen? Answer me. The answer is it will probably fall. Which is based on the way things have been behaving till now. We'll assume it'll continue. But if we understand what you're holding in your hand, and the whole, there's no heichach that the next second it's going to piseicha. There's no heichach the next second it's going to behave in the way it did till now. But we'll assume it did, because for all observable history, there's the laws of gravity, and things are behave manifestedly under a given set of rules. But this set of rules itself, as you probe deeper, so being this guy, this was 1960. I guess it was kind of starting then, but 1950s, quantum physics really began in the 50s. It's also interesting. The Rebbe became a Rebbe. This was, I told you, Zalman never did it, but he wanted to draw a parallel with all the Rebbeim and the Gili of Chassidus, how that really is the pneumius of the strides and breakthroughs in science. And certainly, it's obvious it comes to the Rebbe Rashab and the Alter Rebbe. You can see there are big radical changes in understanding the way things really are. And now Rebbe is quantum physics. It's either the pure or the kus shebedover. Stem cell. Change everything at the core. It doesn't have to be this way. It's not hardcore. It's not locked in. The core of it is potential for anything. And so everything can be changed. Aging, death, everything. Huh?
Is that a nace that's in Teva? Or is that,
Sorry?
Is that a nace that's in Teva, or is that Teva is a nace? There's kind of a nuance.
Yeah, Teva is a nes. Probe Teva, it's not what you think it is. It's pure likus, which is bligvul. Havaya likim. Yeah, indeed. So let's see inside the words of the Maamar. Now it goes even further. So in Nisim, that so in the miracles that are enclosed in nature, which we're not even aware of, there's also the mind. That's the kavanah to reveal that even in this, it's really beyond teva. Answer the sentence of the word here. If already within nature there wasn't the inyan of nes, then there could not be miracles happening in nature. We'd have to completely do away with nature and replace it. But the fact that there can be miracles that happen within the natural course means that it must have been there all along.
Is that to say that now the natural order is just taking a step back, and the natural ruchnistic flow is just happening? Or is there a change? Meaning, is the Teva now just stepping aside and saying, okay,
no, he's talking about Nisim that are in Teva, doesn't step aside. See, the fact that he's saying this, the fact that Teva could be a keli for the Nes,
right,
must mean that all along it carried it within it. Otherwise, it would just dissolve it, and no Nes could happen in a natural way. The Abishah wants to do something like, what's in this? The Abishah doing something that just the mechanics of Teva would not happen. So in order for that to happen in the mechanics of Teva and not dissolve it, it must mean that it was really all there all along. It's really, the Nes is really intrinsic to Teva to begin with. Otherwise, there could not be a Purim Tika kind of Nes. You couldn't have nature entertaining or being a keli for that which is unnatural. It would then, again, dissolve it, implode it. The fact that it doesn't means that we're not forcing something else on it. It was always ever present, which is why the Teva can very nicely be a keli for the miraculous.
Why does it need? Why? I don't get the logical conclusion. If Hashem's Chadash, the world, the Choreg Verega, then yeah, it can be. It can be this way one moment, and at the next moment it can reflect something differently. So why can't it be not a keli for a nes, and then the next moment, as Hashem's Chadash the world, it is a keli for a nes. Hashem wants a nes to happen such and such a way. Okay, so it's going to happen such and such a way. even if it couldn't a moment ago.
Okay, so let's just analyze that. The external dimension of that is creating constantly the rules. That's the rules. The rules work this way and no other way. The nature of a rule is it's like this and not like that. So if the Eibishter formulas, and that's it, hard and fast, wired. Now a mess means this would never happen and cannot happen, it's just not wired that way for this kind of event to occur. The story of Purim, Esther being chosen and the king and all of these things, the Teva just can't produce that. So if a miracle has to happen, it would have to mean that we would be confronting a breakdown of nature. We didn't.
Can't Teva produce the current thing. Everything's a shkacha press, like about Shem Tov's chiddush of even the leaf blowing. Teva can't produce, meaning that same framework that Esther's chosen as queen and Mordechai and Chashurish.
It's kind of the same question, then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It's not, okay, because, okay, so let me explain it this way. L'chura is the leaf blowing one way or another for Kavanah is one thing. It's one thing. The Eibishter said in motion and recreates even these laws. What I'm telling you is that the story of Purim, only after it happens, okay, so it happens. So we're saying, you see, we can explain every move. But the emes is that nature being created every moment cannot, the point of the is cannot produce such a result. The story of Purim is unnatural. But the fact is, you're putting the cart before the horse. The fact is that it did happen in Teva. You know why it happened in Teva? Because the premise of Teva is beyond nature. That's why it could happen. It could not happen if Teva itself was only that, only these rules and these wires, and its pneumius was not rooted in something which is believable, in its own pneumius. Then how would a nest happen? It would happen in a way that would just drop our mouths open and something would be a Jew saved. But it could not be mislabish in Teva. Why? Because push it. Gvul and Bligvul are incompatible. And this is a Bligvul story. But it did happen naturally. And here we are saying he is a Nes Milubish in Teva. You know why? Because the premise of Teva is also Bligvul. So we got used to it. And we explained it. But the only reason we can explain it, and by the way, in the story of Purim, there's all kinds of Meidadika cheshboinus. It wasn't so random that Esther was chosen. That Dafka wanted an orphan because he was a ganze meister, explained in the fellowship. Because Achashverosh wanted to start the new, he wasn't of royal blood, so he wanted to start the royal blood from here. So he wanted Dafka, foreigner, Dafka, an orphan, a Dafka. Not based on pedigrees. So you could keep on, the Teva part is ever present. But what he's saying is that the emes is, this mitzvah Teva could not ever happen. So if the Jews had to be saved, if Teva and higher than Teva were two separate worlds, then it would be an open miracle. Just boom. God come down, kill Haman, whatever it is. How is it that it didn't manifest in Teva? It's only possible because L'chatchila, Gvul, and Bligvul are not these two separate worlds. That the pneumius of Gvul is Bligvul. And again, I was saying that science is literally saying this.
It's not to say that there's no Kiddush of the Nes. It's natural.
Then at the end of the day, when the Nes happens, what it really means is that the pneumius of Teva came out.
So,
we call it a Nes.
I think we're stuck in maybe. I think your answer answers my question, but help me from connecting it properly. That why is Purim a Nes? Because it's so unlikely almost that all the details fall into place. It has to be.
We're not saying not so unlikely. It's more than that. It's saying it's impossible.
Impossible, right?
It could not happen.
So I think we're stuck. It's also impossible that all the details of creation also, they don't just fall into place. Hashem created every single detail for it to be like that. So that's your answer. That the fact that you see Nisim in Teva like Purim brings up the fact that Teva itself is a Nis.
Kind of, yeah. In other words,
like for the Earth to be this far or that far, we wouldn't be able to exist. If we're that different from the sun, if the stars move a different way, there'd be no gravity.
right. So
That was set up as
if our whole body's physiology was a little bit different, it just won't
right,
yeah.
right. But so what is it? What are you saying? It is clearly, even before the chiddush of the fusion now, Teva to begin with, the creation's a miracle. But now what? What did he do? He created a Teva which has hardcore rules, the rules of science. Now, once that's in place, this now, because of whatever reason, no, he chose to make a natural world. He chose to create, that's a miracle, that's true. But now that he created this natural world, so the natural world is a natural world and follows certain rules. Miracles cannot happen. If they do, we're breaking the rules. To bring, to bear, in other words, a new Seder, I mean with the different words. To make a new configuration means the old configurations, God can do anything. So he can break the old configuration, make a new one. So miracles would be, boom, imploding the order temporarily or permanently, as God sees fit, it makes the miracle. And that's the standard miracle, the Kriyas Yamsuf. It happens for a moment, blows all the rules away, and then the rules then reassume afterwards. But in this, that's Meliubavitch in Teva, he's saying he's not that. That is, the old order remains. And in the old order, a completely new configuration. And let's just do it. How can the old order remain with a whole new Seder? We must say perforce, therefore, that in the old order all along, the Pnimius is not order, it's not Seder. It's really believable. And therefore it can happen in this order, something which is believable, which the order itself externally could not produce. But hey, that order itself is rooted in the potential itself, embedded in nature for that which is not this order.
So the question is the answer, basically. The fact that we have the question has the answer built into it.
Meaning
that the fact that I think we're having a hard time because we kind of accept Hashem's hashgacha pratis and everything as a given, right? But that's kind of the chiddush that's being brought out here, that it's not, Teva is not a given. It's the whole thing is Hashem's hashgacha pratis and all the details.
yeah, the hashgacha pratis is the miracle component. Yeah. But again, the chiddush is that the hashgacha pratis, what is it really doing? Or the nes, as he calls it, it's revealing that all along within nature itself, within the gedder of Teva, not something else imposed. In the gedder of Teva, again, that quantum physics is seeing that the very gedder of Teva at its core is believable.
Or can we live our whole life like that? Our whole life can be a Purim story. Every detail that happens, that's a miracle.
That's exactly what he's saying.
So then,
and that's the avodah. That's the avodah is to connect the and to, exactly as you put it, to lead our whole life, seeing the miracle in everything, and sensing it and being in connecting to it.
Then we celebrate Purim as a Yom Tov.
But
then we celebrate Purim as Yom Tov as a whole.
Because till Mashiach comes, that's wow, that's a chiddush. And then the Chanami, as we get closer and closer to Mashiach, that's when Purim is the one Yom Tov that will endure. It'll be Purim all the time. That's kind of the point. And Erev Geula, it's starting this Purim all the time. In the Chanami, exactly as you say. You have to start living this, if you like, Purim-dik life of Adala Yoda in Yoda.
You can say Kriyas Yamsuf, these things is like that too, in a sense, meaning water splits. Okay, the nature changed. The water stayed the same. Even a wind came and blew the waters. Like even the nest that's not al pi teva, any cynic can make it al pi teva. There was even, I think, something that said that all the waters that were in the split of the world, there was some magnetic force. All the planets lined up, and all the water, like any nest, even not al pi teva, can be
that's even better. Because here he's bringing out that he's going to say in this next line even more, which we're seeing that the Adrabah, the Nisim, and Meliubavitch and Teva draw on a far deeper level. So now you're saying, good, If you probe Taki, even the Nisim that L'chaira are bringing to the world another and different Gilui, the Pnimis, even that too, if you look carefully, is also Meliubavitch and Teva. It's only even makes case better.
It's like Sachakol in Mobav.
Yeah. That's the Sachak. So now going further. Yad Kadekach. The point now, Nes Hamolubish B'Tev Adrab, a nest that's enclosed in Teva B'Oif and Shal Hel and V'Hester. In a way, when it's completely concealed, you don't see anything untoward. Shemushka Lagamri B'Levush Teva, that's completely sunken into garments of Teva. Nimsheches Mizgala B'Chinas Nihilis Yoser, that really draws that goes into Etzem Mamish. That's even higher Afilim Akbala Milo than the classic nest. Like as an hint to in that prophecy there, in the sign that what? That Yeshaya told Achaz. He said, in your Alma, here is this young woman, Hara, she's pregnant, this bain shall give birth to a child, which is the most, first of all, a natural thing. And yet, he's going mid-sentence. The Avshan Nesu Boif and Shel Hel and Vahester. So even though this miracle is happening in the most concealed way, life, birth happens all the time. And the Achor is then Nasim, they let this ben. So what comes out of the year the child is born? The Navi says he'll be given all of these names: Pele Yoyetz, wondrous advisor, Kel Gibber, mighty, godly one, Avi also means Aviad, eternal father, Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace, the Marbe HaMisra, who will bring, the word Marbe is correct, spelled with a...
I was just wondering what...
Yeah. The Marbe, to bring, Mr. here means bring, like a world that's sovereignty, a world that is conducting itself peacefully and lawfully. That's why, again, they mentioned this the other day, they exploit this pasuk to refer to you know who, because of all these descriptions of this child that they take literally as meaning, again, but the whole thing is insane because it's 700 years before. It's nothing to, anyway, but what they're saying, the name that this child is going to get, the paradox. All these names Taka refer to, like Mashiach Diki and Yonim, and yet it's a child born to this pregnant woman, the most natural thing in the world. What is he saying? That Adarat, in the Nisim that are enclosed in nature, therein lies the deepest Gilun. And as opposed to the miracles that blow nature away. Which you are now pointing, yeah, there too we can see Meliubavitch and Teva. Good. And not as obviously, paradoxically, as the Nisim Mamish Meliubavitch and Teva. Conclusion, that the miracles mean to say the everyday stuff, and that's that, as you said before, this is the whole kavanah, that we should live this way, aware of the absolute wonder and ness of every natural occurrence. That there is an external natural order, and therefore an expectation and a prediction of how things are going to be the next second, but it's lav dafka. And it'll happen in a different way, but it's still within nature. All right, a little bit further. Yeah, a little bit further. What it means on a simple level, not simple at all, but pale mamitic level is that whatever matzav a yid faces, there's no resignation to, well, that's just the way it goes. And the outcome is inevitable. It's simply not so. The outcome even naturally can be, and then let me explain later how it happened. It can be completely different than what the rules suggest. Yid is not a Yid is not bound by the laws of nature, even within nature. Never mind a miracle coming out of the blue and completely, saving him. It could happen in nature itself, because the pnimius of nature is beyond nature. And it'll happen in a natural way. Quote unquote. Mashiach didn't come yet, so it's not manifested all the time, but it could be. The tracht gut wird sein good thing. This is what it means, So we're part of the process of our deep emunah and bitochen and understanding of this truth, again, which contemporary science is helping us see. The core of all things is completely divine and beyond time and space and infinite energy. Our understanding and connecting to that is part of the process by which it's manifest. There's no question about that we play a critical role in by virtue of our emunah and living this way, in revealing it. And in avodah, it means also like this: a person can look at himself and say, for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, 60 years, 75 years, this is the way I am. This is my nature. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I do. Okay, you can try to tweak it here and there, but it's a radical change. And we get radical change in some area that has been a pattern repeating for knows how long. It's not possible. The answer is it is possible. And they'll become natural. And it is natural. It is natural. It is natural that it's possible to dig deeper and make new pathways, a new behavior, a new natural behavior. Hello? How'd you do this? Just dug a little deeper to what's being present within me all along. I don't have to be locked in this pattern. Naturally, I can be naturally a different pattern. It can happen after 75 years of never believing I could possibly, react this way or do this or whatever it is. Could be. Big avodah, no question, but it's possible. That's the mile of Golus in a way. We're like dreamers. That's how Golus is described. What's in a dream? In the dream, 1 second you're here, the next second you're there, and there's no questions. The dream goes on, the narrative goes on, and we keep on dreaming away. And that's the Maila in Golus. The next second, bim bum. No, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to think like this and behave this way. And you don't have to explain it. It's Golus. The re-explanation was never hardwired down to the depth to be that way to begin with. The wiring is external. It's rooted in the place where there's no wiring at all and every potential is possible. It's all bleakvul. And so now the wiring is beteva, now wired like this. Okay, another few words. They're going to take you to us in Avodah. So explain this in Avodah, as we learned in the previous Maamer, right? So the top of the peaks of the rocks, I see Migvois Hasherenu, and from the hills I behold him. Sheklole, what we explained there, that the Rosh Tzurim is what that's where Mesiras Nefesh comes from. That's Makif. We explained Migvois Hasherenu, that's bringing you down into the hills, bringing you down into, that's the Imois, the mothers, bringing you down. The Pnimius and the Seichel and Midas and so on. That avoid has to be like this. But the foundation has to be Mesiras Nefesh. Merosh Surim, that's the peaks of the rocks. Like the Rebbe Rashab said, what's Mesiras Nefesh? Mesiras Nefesh azoy and nit anders. It's this way and not that way, not negotiable. That's how the Avodah has to begin. That's the Nase. This is that a person makes an enduring resolve. V'achlot is an absolute, enduring an absolute. Then it says la'ad, and it stands forever. We learned in the Maimah before, not just true, but the truth of truth. And not the mind, but the story we told the other day. This is the Kavim Tzoi, this is Yaakov. It draws on Pnimis HaKesed. So the foundation has to be connecting to his Pnimis HaNefesh. That's the foundation, but it can't stop there. This is the Alma discussing. And this, if that's where it was, it means a person will be denying himself and overriding his consciousness all the time. Not only is that no way to live, it's not sustainable. It's not the kavanah. The kavanah is that should fuse that reshus should fuse and suffuse consciousness. On the after the foundation of Mesidas Nefesh, then you have to the orderly avoiding. It's the typical on the tikkun, right? This is from the hills I behold him. And we explained Hashem means a close look, as opposed to Hareno from the distance, which is makiv. Beifin shall istaklos, gazing, the kavana and intent, the seidim is so the b'maisa b'poyo. So the Mesidas Nefesh now manifests in the natural conscious order, different than yesterday, but now, but it's natural. This is normal. My mind understands it, my heart feels it, then it comes down into behavior. I'm not breaking myself constantly. This is the new me, all the way down to every level. Because it's got to be renewed every day. It's got to start with askafia. It's got to start with constantly you have to revisit that and fuel the new order, because there's always a temptation to go back to the old patterns. Shamaisa, the main is going to come down into Maisa. The Dafke, they have the zone stuff when we bring it down. The Mesidas Nefesh, as it pervades and suffuses the Seichel, the Midas, the Machshav, the Maisa, Nimsharin, the Ashereno. So here, the relationship with God is not I see you from the Ashereno, the Kodev close. It's an intimate, close, experienced, internalized, primistic connection. So again, using the analogy of a marriage. So it's not enough that the husband says, okay, listen, honey, whatever you want, that's it. You surrender as a state of a total bittul. That's got to be talking the foundation. But that's not enough. They've got to meet and fuse on all the levels of experience and consciousness. Mind, heart, all the way down to Maisa B'Poyel. But all of that has to be predicated on, it's all about you. Otherwise it becomes a selfish experience and ultimately abusive, if not obviously subtly. So for the seichel, the midas, the experience of, and the enjoyment and the pleasure and all of the experiences that need to be expressed and shared is all based on what? On the Rosh Surim. So that's like bringing the Nes into Teva. The truth is every marriage is a Nes. It's a miracle. I mean, logically, two people forever. What does this mean? Forever? Good for a week, a month, a year, 10 years. We change, we evolve. Things I found appealing are no longer appealing. You change, I changed. How's it supposed to last forever? So one way is ignore all the changes. Negate of Mesidas Nefesh, Kabbalah's oil, stuck with you. You know, we got married, and I take the vow seriously, and I'm committed, and that's it. So, you know, I become deaf, and I close up all of the emotions, and I just loyal. That's not kavanah. That's Alma Discassia dominating, Alma Disgalia blown away, and that's like the Nes, Emunah defining the experience, the reality, period. No. The kavanah is that the Alma Discassia, the Emunah permeate the Alma Disgali and Alma Disgali reflect that naturally. So that which is really a miracle. That is the biggest miracle right there. That a couple should continue to enjoy each other and go deeper and deeper in friendship forever. Naturally. Naturally. He has to draw on the Mesiras Nefesh every day. To remind himself, I'm married, Mesiras Nefesh, listen. I want this, I love this, I love her, I want to be with her. So objectively, it's a mess. Which is why marriages really don't work. Most don't. If you don't tap into this. The big chiddush here is that the Mesiras Nefesh and the Nes and the Emunah is the pnimius of Teva. We're not saying override Teva. That should then, if needs reconfiguring, realigning, but that is natural. Because the source of Teva itself is Blikvol. So Teva itself says, it doesn't be like this, it can be like this. There's adaptation, there's change, and there's growth. How Gufa is natural. So it's both miraculous and natural. Miraculous in, happily ever after. Of course, with the ups and downs and challenges, this is challenging avodah. So with Chassidus is, to keep on learning and inspiring and being fueled by this. But the net result is, it's in Teva.
Being fueled by both, by the bittul and the rest.
Yeah, constantly. Constant avodah. So
it's like a paradox. To be constantly fueled by the complete bittul, and then to also be fueled by nishma.
Yeah, and that's the whole davening. It starts with the Meida'ani surrender, and then the davening proceeds from there with all this hisbondedness and hisbondedness and hisbondedness. Hisbondedness of the Zimran, hisbondedness of Kriyashma. And how does it end? Shmoneser. Shmoneser is the fusion. Because the one hand for Shmoneser is Admo, tiftach. I can't even speak complete bittul. Then read what he says. I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. I need food, I need drink, I need to be forgiven, I need to be loved, I need to be. So that's all mamash, the yeshes and the teva. But this is a yeshes and the teva that's predicated on this profound bittul. Why do I need all of this? Because you want it from me, because you want this deep connection. Meaning conscious, panemius, experienced, understood, loved, embracing the whole gamut of the human experience. So Shmoneser is this quintessential paradox. He starts off, and then there's a whole thing that I need. A whole list of requests, personal needs. That's Nes and Teva fusing. It's Alma Discussion, Alma Disgali as one. It needs to be constantly addressed and fueled and being misbeined. It's a constant avodah. Final word to the story, marriage. It's a big chiddush of the Rogatshov and there's beautiful elaboration that marriage is the one relationship that is constantly being renewed. Alpi nigla. Every second is the ischachus of the marriage. Unlike other contracts, you acquire something once you made that kinyan, it's done, it's yours. You're constantly being kained. But this is a different kind of acquisition completely. When they acquire each other, it's constant. It's a constant. When you said those words, under the chuppah, the emes that's constantly being done. And there's endless manifestations. Why is that? Because it needs constant avodah. This is not a one-time thing. You bought something, you can sell it. It's not forever yours. Even when you chatchila bought it, wasn't forever. So that's one time, because that one time says tomorrow, lavdafka. But the pnimius of marriage is it's forever. That means the constant ischachus, because there is no forever in Teva. There's no forever in Teva. You liked each other, it was good, 5 years, 10 years. Move on and experience somebody else, something else. That's what Teva says. And yet, Teva is saying, no, this is forever. That's a constant ischachus that has to draw on what? On the emunah and the Kabbalah Soil and the Meida'ani of it. Now translate that in the ever reconfigured, if necessary, pathways of seichel and midas to keep that really true connection on the seichel and bidus level. If it means a change a little bit, so be it. How could that be? Because the pnimis of Teva is not bound to this. You don't have to become somebody else. Let's go deeper. But again, we're saying this is a constant avodah. Because as we all know, it's very easy to get stuck in it's a natural thing to get stuck in the pathways of Teva. This is who I am, this is what I like, what I don't like. You change, I don't like you anymore. You're not the person I married. So why should I stay with you? It's easy to get stuck like this. And the whole thing falls apart. The constant avodah to go to the pnimis of my very Teva, which is not bound to this. I can really learn to appreciate the new you. As you and me, it's going to be obvious both ways. So constant avodah, constant work.
The Eibusher is never changing.
Pardon?
The Eibusher is never changing. In that sense, it's not evolving. The avodah is the same.
The avodah is the same.
New
The Eibusher is not changing, right? Which is saying, b'pnimius, you're not really changing anything.
Which is good, probing layers.
Yeah, you're not really changing anything. We're not asking you to become somebody else. Asking you to go deeper to see what the true you is, which is and that, and its endless possibilities. It's all relative, all relative.